Office of Economic and Development is sort of separate from the policy side of the governor's office. We are more of the agency side. So, as you know, we have a special session going on, and when there was a legislative session, people were very concerned that our staff would be all tied up. We were not. We continued to work throughout the state with all of our community partners and helping any economic development efforts that we had. And so when you usually reach out to our office, the company has probably already engaged you on a couple properties, or maybe you've engaged them. You maybe receive something from our office that we call leads. We do keep a selection of open buildings throughout the state and all the different communities. And you probably got in contact with someone that's called a project coordinator in my office. They are actually across the street from me, but we work together. They are the ones that are a solid point of contact throughout the whole process. Any questions that you may have for the company and our programs, and maybe just making connections. If you need to make a connection with the Texas Workforce Commission, if you need to make a connection with the Comptroller's office, these are the people that can help you do that, and they can help you do that throughout the whole process. Once they talk to you for a little bit about a project, and they hear some of the specifics of what the company wants to do, how many employees they have, what those employees are making, what their capital investment is, our project coordinators will get a good idea of what incentives they could be eligible for. And that's when they kick it over to myself and my team. We're all different finance specialists and program specialists, and each one of us can talk about all of our incentive programs, but some of us do focus on a few of them. So again, it's always beneficial when we talk about incentives in the state of Texas is to talk about, and what a lot of people in Texas always like to talk about, is how Texas is unique and special and different from most of the rest. And since we are such a large state, we often have to tell people from out of state that are in the site selection process, we operate a little differently, where the state isn't actually the first contact always. We're not the ones that are driving the economic development of the state. It's actually the local community. It's all of you. It's all the partners. It's people involved in site selection. It's the real estate. It's your chamber of commerce. It's your city. It's all these people. And then they are able to reach out to the state eventually, and we're able to assist in any way that we can. And the way that is because we're so large. We have a city like Houston that has a larger economy than the entire state of Louisiana. So obviously things have to operate a little differently. But we're happy to be able to help in any way that we can. And with all these different programs, most of our community partners have a good idea of who to talk to. So the first one that I had listed on here for our Texas incentives is the one that we are going to talk about, the Texas Enterprise Zone program. Like I said, this is a state sales and use tax refund that promotes job creation and investment that will assist economically distressed areas of the state. Like most of our programs, this is tied to jobs and capital investment. Another one that you may come across if you're working with a company that's looking for a facility for manufacturing. We do have a manufacturing exemption here in the state of Texas, so that's state sales and use tax exemptions for tangible property, natural gas, and electricity. Another one we have is the value limitation tax credits. It's a 10-year limitation on that with local school districts. If you are in a Freeport area, we have Freeport exemptions. Pollution control equipment incentive, our renewable energy incentives, defense economic readjustment zone program. These ones not as widely used. That's another one that if you're in a community that is eligible for that, your community partners will tell you. And again, those would be your Chamber of Commerce, the city, the county. We have our research and development tax credit. These are for companies that do a lot of R&D. Something like an industry like pharmaceuticals is really big right now in Texas, and so they are ones that usually qualify for that. Data center tax incentives, and then our business relocation tax deduction. And then here's the other program that I'll actually start with when we get into it, the Texas Enterprise Fund. This is the one that you may hear about all the time with the big press releases. The governor comes out, he went to a big opening. People like to talk a lot about the Toyota headquarters that came here. This program is how we funded the deal closer. Company will say that we're looking at Texas, but we're also looking at another state, or they could be looking at another country. And so a community will come to us and say, how can you help us push this deal through and get them to choose Texas over somebody else? And so that's the Texas Enterprise Fund. This is a cash grant program. It has changed over the last couple of years. It is now performance-based. So a company will create the jobs first, prove that they have maintained those jobs, and then they receive. And a lot of times, like the Texas Enterprise Fund, Another program that comes in that's through Texas Workforce Commission is the Skills Development Fund. This is for if a company comes in and they have any training requirements. The great thing about this program is that it's actually available to current companies that are here if they have any training needs that they have in their area. You work with the local community colleges, and they can help you design specific training programs specifically for your company. If you have a specific machinery that you have training needs for, they will work with you and do that. They can have their instructors do it. You can have your instructors do it. But that's another one of those great collaborations that we have with another agency. And you can work with our project coordinators. We'll set up all the meetings that you would need to talk to Texas Workforce Commission to get that program going. And I can't emphasize enough that for companies that are even already still here, like they can be using this right now. That's a good way to talk to a company that's looking at a new facility, and maybe you have a great community college around there. You can remind them of this program. It's another way that they can help reduce their costs of moving to that specific building. Then we have the Self-Sufficiency Fund, another job training one. The Governor's University Research Initiative. This is another one that probably in the site selection process is just good to mention to the company that we are trying to attract Nobel laureates and very distinguished researchers here to our Texas universities. This in turn brings a lot of research and development companies around the area, and it really has been boosting our higher education rankings. We are going into the second wave of this program. It was funded for the first time after the last legislative session. It just got fully funded again, so we'll be right at it, and we'll actually be able to announce a lot of our newest researchers that are going to be coming. It's pretty exciting news, especially for the governor. Then you have the Texas Capital Fund Infrastructure Development Real Estate Program. Couldn't be a longer name. So they tried to lower it down to infra, but nobody refers to it as that. So you'll probably just hear this called Capital Fund. This one, Department of Agriculture will help work on. That's another community, another organization that we can help put you in contact with. The last two, Cancer Prevention Research Center obligation bonds. That's not something that I've really had anyone ever come in and deal with. And then the Defense Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant Program. That's another program that we have another department, but we are more than happy to make those connections. Again, the community that you're in or looking at with your facility, they will know if they're eligible for these. We have the Texas Product Development Small Business Incubator Fund. This is PDSBI. This was an important one to know because it also doesn't get used as much, but we get a lot of small businesses that come and ask the governor's office, how can we find some sort of funding or loans? This is really the only one that at the state level that we have. We refer to as PDSBI. It's a revolving loan program financed through the original bond issuances. Essentially, you work with LIFT Fund and People Fund, and then they will come to us and apply, and then we will back that loan. There is a board for that, so it is a little bit of a process of applying, but again, our project coordinators and our finance team are more than willing to help any business work through that. Texas Leverage Fund, I won't really get into that one so much because it needs some legislative fixes before we can use it again, but we are hopeful that we will find something out with that. And then these last three or so, again, these are not ones that we really deal with so much. The Capital Access Program does get some usage. That one is established to increase availability of financing for businesses and nonprofit organizations that have barriers in accessing capital that fall outside conventional lending. Again, this one sometimes can help a small business, not terribly small, but something to keep in mind. And I think you look through this whole list, you probably hear a lot of these incentive programs that you might not have heard of before. It's very beneficial to get a packet of these and send it to a company in addition to whatever facility they say they're looking for, to let them know that we do have all these state options. But then emphasize again, like I said at the beginning, economic development Texas is a bit unique in that it's community driven. It's driven from the cities and the counties, and they have a lot more incentive programs themselves. Obviously, the state of Texas does not have an income tax. So that's something that a lot of other states use to entice companies to come there. We don't have to because we don't have it at all. So I think that's one of the most beneficial selling points that we have. A lot of times a company will come and say, I'm looking at this building in Dallas, but I'm also looking at this building in Atlanta, and they're offering me this and this program. And then we look at it and they're just offering a tax credit to their income tax. And we tell them, well, we don't need to give you that credit because you don't have to pay it at all to begin with. So let's talk about the big program that makes the news. It's all over the place. It gets all the criticism. It gets all the accolades. It's the Texas Enterprise Fund. Again, it's the largest deal closer of its kind in the nation. This is the one that if you're looking at Texas in your company, you also have to be looking somewhere else. It has to be a competitive project. We're basically using this grant program to entice you at the very end to mitigate some of those costs of moving here, in addition to any other items that we were able to sell you on to get you here. There are some people that think that it's an entire cash grant up front. When the program was created, it was a cash program up front. We still do have active awardees that received all their money up front, but it is no longer handled that way. So it's very important to explain to a company when you apply and you accept this money and you sign our contract that you will actually have to create the jobs, maintain everything that you agreed to in our agreement, and then you'll receive the money. And if at any point throughout the life of that agreement, you maybe drop below those job numbers or you don't meet some of the criteria that we put in the agreement, there are liquidated damages. It's all spelled out in the contract. Um, the contract has grown exponentially. I still consider this to be a new administration, even though we've been in a couple of years now. But obviously, the governor was one of the longest serving attorney generals. He has an entire staff of lawyers. He brought it over to the governor's office. So, as you can imagine, a staff full of lawyers. Our contracts went from about 7 or 8 pages to something like 20 pages now. But they just spelled out things that were inherent in the previous agreements. They just weren't listed there. It was probably very smart, and it behooved us to actually spell that stuff out so that we wouldn't have any questions as you go through. Most of our agreements are about 10 years long. Like with most companies, you can imagine the same people that were there in year 1 are no longer there in year 10. Some of them don't even know that their company is a TEF grantee. And so when your compliance office reaches out to them to get a report, they're like, who are you and why do I have to do this? So some of the accolades that people talk about, we have awarded more than $600 million since the start of the program. We've announced more than 81,800 new jobs and generate over $26.9 billion in capital investment. Eligibility, again, the competition piece is huge. I'd say the top 3, if you're talking to a company and they're looking at a facility and they want to see what programs they're eligible for, the 3 top criteria you look at: are you in competition? Do you have what they call significant job creation? So it's 75 jobs in urban areas. Those are going to be the ones that you expect: Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso. But then you only need 25 jobs if you're in a rural area. And you can call our office and give us the specs of what that company's looking at, and we will tell you if you would qualify as an urban or as a rural area. And then the other portion of the program is high-paying jobs. We define that as above the average county wage. And that one is important to remember. That is for total all industries. So a lot of times you'll get maybe a manufacturing company come in and they want to say, do we use the manufacturing wages? Unfortunately, the current guidelines are total all. Again, that's something that we don't decide upon. We get that information from the Texas Workforce Commission, and we will gladly give you that list or talk you through. You can go on Tracer. It's a pretty popular link for the Texas Workforce Commission. Go on there and you can see what the average wage is of all the counties. You can add up what it is in Texas. That could also be a beneficial tool to you if you were working with a company and they're looking at an area and you can say, well, look, this is the average county wage and you are far above that. I think it's a great selling point. Then we have criteria of significant capital investment. That's just $1 million or more. Clearly, if somebody's coming to building a facility, they're going to reach that. If they're even a moderately sized company and they're coming in leasing out a sizable amount of space, they're going to reach that. This becomes more important when we talk about the award amounts. The higher the capital investment, the higher the wages, and the faster that you hire your employees, the higher the award amount will be. Typical awards range from $1,000 to $10,000 per job. Most companies average in the $5,000 to $6,000 per job. But say you're paying your employees $120,000 a year, and you built a new building. It was well over $100 million. You can get closer to that $10,000 per job. Those ones, I'd say, think like the Toyota deal that you probably heard about. That was that one.
And do they just give that money to the employer? How's that work?
Yeah, so the state, you'll have the agreement will be with the company, and that money will be awarded to that company. And they can, and it's discretionary, so it doesn't have to be tied to like our state sales and use tax one. Like you had to have bought something and spent sales tax. The TEF is not like that. They can use the money on whatever they see fit to use the money on. And then another one part of the eligibility is significant rate of return on public dollars invested. That's more of just us kind of looking at when you pay these employees and they spend money in our state, how much are we going to get back on our taxes? Community involvement is another important piece. Again, when you're in the site selection process, you know, one of the great first steps is just to reach out to the community. Again, that's your city, your county, your chamber, your economic development council. Reach out to them first. Tell them about the project. Tell them you're interested in the enterprise fund, and they will actually work with you on that application. And there's actually a page where they will sign off and say, we approve of this project and we've been involved, and please help us get this and land this here in our community here in Texas. Oh, yes. The other part is the well-established, financially sound business and an advanced industry. We do have a list of industries that we are hopeful for, but there's not too many that we really don't go for. Usually the only ones we wouldn't is, say, retail, but that's just because you probably wouldn't meet these other criteria to begin with. They wouldn't be high paying, they wouldn't be long-term jobs, they wouldn't be high capital investment. So again, you'll have a good idea of when an industry reaches out to you, how that'll work. And then the actual approval is a process through, it's a unanimous approval from the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker of the House. Give you a little idea of that process and the timeline. So once you've reached out to the community and you've got approval from them and you're filling out an application, it goes through our intake process. You turn an application, assuming that everything is complete, you gave us all the documents, everything was correct. Then we will start our due diligence process. That takes about 2 to 3 weeks. That's just where we look through all the financials. We ask for 3 years of financials from the company. We're just looking to see that it's a viable company. You're not coming out with 3 years of losses. And we also look into leadership of that company. We look into anything that's in the news. This is really a big chance for us to really weigh how competitive this project is. If I look at your application and then I just briefly Google the company and it says, hey, they're locating in Irving, then obviously it's not competitive anymore, and so that would disqualify them. It's also just a good chance to look through any other things that are going on with the company. This is a highly publicized program. We get public information requests on it constantly. It gets a lot of attention. So the state is obviously a steward of the taxpayer dollars. This is where we make sure that we aren't handing money to a company that the taxpayers would not approve of. Once you make it through the due diligence process and we say this looks like a good project, we put together the packet, and this is where we take it on and we give it to the leadership review. That's what I was talking about. It gets the governor's approval, lieutenant governor, and the speaker of the House. Statutorily, they have 30 days. They do get the option to ask for a 14-day extension, so 44 days. That's what I would advise your clients, the 44 days. That's what the offices have been averaging, especially around a legislative session. This is a lot faster than what it used to be. It was 90 days before, and luckily 2 sessions ago, they shortened that. So it's another thing that we like to tell the company is that, you know, while it seems daunting, 30, 44, it's actually a pretty quick process from what it once was. I think this is where I wanted to actually show you what the application would look like. Whenever we put this in PDF, it always shows it in black. I assure you the application does not normally look with a black background.
I think we're seeing that.
Can everybody see the application?
It says it's paused. Hit new share or resume share. It's up at the top.
Didn't work.
It did work.
I'll try that again. So when I click on that,
It says it's not going to.
maybe I need to take the.
Can you drag it to?
Oh, there we go. Can you guys see it now?
No.
Nope.
Sorry, don't know why that's
Yeah, whenever I click on the document, it says
Yeah, I don't know.
not going to happen,
Be
I
able to
guess.
do that. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see if I can take you to the website. Hopefully, this one will work. Can you see the? No? Maybe I need to take that off the screen.
Well, I think if you just click on the Explorer thing down here at the bottom, it should.
It looks like that one stage. Do you see the website now?
No, I see your PowerPoint. Click on click on the Explorer in the bottom, and I think that will bring up. No, try again. Or there's two there. There's another.
That's the Texas site search. Maybe I have to close the PowerPoint.
Possibly. Although that didn't come up in your share either. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let me try briefly close that and see if that. Do it.
Hit the share again. At the bottom. Great. Click on what you want to share. Let's see. Oh,
There we go. That worked? All right, perfect. So I talked about earlier, when you start talking about the incentives and you start talking about what the state can do for a company, this is our resource. This is our website, businessintexas.com. There is a lot to it, so that's why I wanted to bring you on here and show you a little bit of it. This first part, just sort of the usual Texas marketing, why choose the state of Texas, some of our accolades that we have, #1 exporter, 13 million productive workers, just, little things that a company might want to hear as to why they're looking at coming here. Skilled workforce, again, that goes back to that TWC training. If they have a facility around a community college, you can tell them that, you're going to have easy access to some of these programs. To get to all of our finance department incentives, you go to services, the very top one here, incentives and financing. It's a picture of all of our governor's cups. This is where we have won for the past 7 years for having the best economic development in the nation. You click here, the Texas Enterprise Fund. This is the website that you go to find all of our applications. We always have the most up-to-date application on here. We have all of our eligibility criteria. I'll show you a little bit Texas Site Search, which is another great tool that we have linked through here that can help you through a lot of our programs and even more. I talked a little bit about who can be eligible for these. Okay, great, that popped up. So this is a great thing that I like about the Enterprise Fund. It is such a public program. It is always in the news. This shows you every recipient we've ever had. This tells you how many jobs they created, what their capital investment was, what their Enterprise Fund award was. So it starts from the oldest in 2004, and you'll come all the way down to the most recent ones that we've had. So maybe if you're in the Austin area, you heard about the Merck one that was just done. That was 600 jobs, $6 million award. We really tell people now with a new governor, I would say look from this list on right here. So the 2016, 2017, look at these award amounts, look at these job numbers. You can give an estimate then to a company of how much they could potentially be awarded if they're to choose your site. We had some other big ones on there. We had Hulu, McKesson, Granger. We've had a big year. We have a number that are still contracting right now that can be announced. Another great thing to remind your communities and any companies that are coming in from out of state, the Enterprise Fund was fully funded in this last legislative session. So we have all the funds that we had last session too, and we get those for the next 2 years. But a great place, again, this is a great resource to come back to, look at, give us an idea of who's been eligible, what their numbers have been like. That way they can have normal expectations as to what they think they could get. And again, it'll be a great resource to come through here, shows you your eligibility, how to apply. You can actually download the application right here. Again, we always keep that updated. That one's a lot simpler than the enterprise zone one that I will be talking about later. This application is about a 13-page one. The first page will be the community. That's where the city, the EDC, the county, they'll just sign off on it and say, we approve of this project. We really want to bring it here to Texas. We want to bring it here to our community. The next few pages are just the company giving their information. This is the CEO. We want to apply. They give details of the project. This is where you could come in and help them a lot. A part of the application that we don't get enough on that we hope sometimes is the specifics. Like we are getting a 40,000 square foot facility that we want to have this much parking and we want it to have, these offices and we're going to put these furnishings in it. That's something that really helps us sell the project to leadership and tell them this is the specifics and this is why they need to come to Texas. This is why they need TEF, because there's this other building in, again, Ohio that's got these specs. And so we really want to mitigate some of their costs and help bring them here. So in the application, that's probably where you will be most beneficial for them.
Can you share and maybe you see the application because you could already open it. Can you share? Is one of those the application?
No.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
All right. Here you also have our contact information. This is a legislative report. This is what we are statutorily required to provide to all the legislators. Something also I think need to look at just because it really just gives a historic outlook of the program, who the grantees were, what they got. That's exactly what we tell the state. A little overview if you need a quick printout. If you're just going to a meeting with a company, you can print this out. You can also, at the end of this, I'll give you my contact information. You can ask if I have any slideshows or anything on state incentives. I'd be more than happy to share those with you. And then this is a link to get to the Texas site search. I think I already brought it up. There we go. Great. So this is a really cool tool that we don't know that all of our communities use as much, but this is a database of open facilities that we know of that are in the communities. You can come here, type in a city, it should show you some open buildings. If you are in a community and you know that there are some open buildings and they're not listed on here, please reach out to our office and we will have them included. Let's see here if I can pull up a search. Let's see here. Buildings, business, communities. I like to go by community. Let's see. See, there's one for Bastrop. Looking. Gives you some data on it. This is the population. This is the labor force size. Bachelor degrees are higher. Again, if you see any of these numbers that are not up to date, please let us know. We can fix that. A lot of cities, a lot of smaller ones don't give us the updates. And the same thing with some of the larger ones. They have too many available and they won't show us what their open buildings are. But it's a lot of great information. You can download a full report. I don't think it'll pop up if I click on it right now. But usually if there is a building there, you'll click the full report. It'll give you square footage, what the lease is, who the contact person is. They'll give you images of it. They'll show you previous tenants, what kind of specs they had in there. It's an amazing resource and something that we'll come back to later for the Enterprise Zone program. All right, so I think I will switch back to PowerPoint. So hope that works. Well, that one showed, didn't it? Oh, good, because I want to come. Yeah, I want to come back to that one. Good. All right, I gotta bring the PowerPoint back up.
Remove the disk.
Move the disk. There it is. Yep. All right, so the other program, the one that doesn't get as much attention, like talked about, the Texas Enterprise Zone program. This is one that I would think that more companies that you work with are probably going to be eligible for this. Economic development tool for local communities, partner with the state, promote job creation, significant private investment for economically distressed areas of the state. Approved projects eligible to apply for state sales and use tax refunds on qualified expenditures. The level and the amount of refunds related to the capital investment and the jobs created. It's the two most important things. Look at how many jobs there are. They get paid per job. Most get designated as a single enterprise project, and they're eligible for $2,500 per employee, up to 500 employees. And then the capital investment is what decides what the maximum you can get back. The most, again, is a single enterprise project can maximum get a refund of $1.25 million, and that's over a 5-year period. We have 105 designations per biennium to hand out, and that's statewide. Most communities are eligible for 6 to 9 designations. This last biennium, we had 6 left over, and so we got to roll those over into the next biennium. So we'll actually have like 111. It's not a program that has been maxing out. So again, it's one that we want to get more people out there knowing about, talking to companies about. This one is not like the enterprise fund. It does not have to be for competitive projects. It can be a company that already exists in your community and they're looking at a building expansion. They're making a new project to expand the facility and maybe hire some more employees. The other important part is this is not just for new jobs. This is for retained jobs as well. If it's a company that already has 300 jobs and they're simply adding a new part of their building on, and it's going to cost them, $25 million, they can still get credit for that and maintaining those other employees. And they just have to maintain those employees throughout the life of their designation. And before I go any further, did anybody have any questions on the Texas Enterprise Fund before I completely move on from that one? Nothing. Okay. So we'll go back to the enterprise zone. So the eligibility for this one, again, emphasize it's not like the enterprise fund. It doesn't have to be competitive. It doesn't have to be new to your community. But the community, again, does have to be behind the project, and they are the ones that actually officially nominate the company as an enterprise project. To do that, the city passes an ordinance. If they've already passed an ordinance for a previous company, then they just pass a quick resolution. The county can do an interlocal agreement as well. Officially, the community is the applicant, but it is on behalf of the company. And I imagine if you're involved in the site selection process, you're still very involved throughout this whole process. A lot of times, the communities or the company hires a consultant to fill it out because, like I said, unlike the enterprise fund application, this one is very long. The actual application portion that we provide is about 30 pages. When you put all the tabs in, it can come out to like 140 pages or more. It's a lot of background data. We want to have all the resolutions, what the company's doing, a project letter, what they're doing in the community, showing us, again, some of their financials, how many employees they currently have, what those employees are making. So there's a lot of due diligence that goes into it. Again, as stewards of taxpayer dollars, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
When you say the city passes an ordinance, what does that ordinance say? Does it declare an enterprise zone or?
Yeah, simply it declares I'll show you, see if no, I probably won't bring up. We have language, the specific language that you would need to pass in the ordinance, the community would, on our website. I'll show you where that is later. So all that it's really got to do is plug and play. The community just has to put the company name in and a couple other specifics. We try to make it as simple as we can. But yeah, it just nominates them as an enterprise project. It says who the person that the city will be able to contact the state with. It tells us if you're in or out of a zone. So I guess, yeah, we'll get to that point.
I have a question here that I think relates back actually to something you were talking about a moment ago. Someone asked, can we list our listing with you? I think that means if they know of an empty building.
Texas Site Search?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So for our realtors who are
Yep.
selling commercial buildings, if they happen to have an empty one, go ahead and send that to you. It's another place to get the
Yep.
word out.
Definitely. Yeah. So again, at the end of this, I'll give out my contact information and I'll give you the person in our office that handles that. That'd be very beneficial. We want that database to be as expansive as possible. So if we're missing buildings or listings, definitely let us know. And the more information.
Where do you get that information as it stands now? Do you know?
We get them mostly from the communities. They're supposed to be the ones keeping up on it the most, but we're able to handle it if you individually give it to us.
Okay.
But it probably wouldn't hurt to tell the community themselves because they're going to be dealing with us. They're going to be involved in a lot of these processes.
Right.
So back to eligibility for enterprise zone, communities can nominate them for up to 5 years. Could be a shorter designation. Most of them are 5 years though. Again, this is important to remember. This is not money up front. This is a refund. So they will invest the money on the front end, and then they will receive the money through the next 5 years afterwards. The other key point that I think a lot of communities get stuck on here is the next eligibility requirement. Projects may be physically located in or outside of an enterprise zone. If you're located within a zone, which I'll show you on Texas Site Search in a moment, how you know if you're in or out of one. If you're in a zone, the company that is, you commit to at least 25% of your new employees will be economically disadvantaged, or residents that are within that zone, or veterans. And we have those definitions of what that means to be economically disadvantaged on our website. It's in the statute and rules as well. It's well defined, and we can share that with you. And this is where people get confused. You don't have to be in an enterprise zone to qualify for this program. So the other part, if you're located outside of a zone, the only difference is you now have to hire at 35% instead of 25%. And again, this will go back to new jobs versus retained jobs. If you have retained jobs, this eligibility requirement doesn't really come up until somebody leaves that retained job and you have to backfill that position. That's when you worry about this percentage. It's really for the new job creators. And again, the same requirement as the enterprise fund, you must meet or exceed the county weekly average wage. So let me go ahead and bring up Texas Site Search again. So that worked. Okay, great. So right here, you're on Texas Site Search, same place we were at searching the communities before, your listings and all the buildings. It's just right here on the right up here, Enterprise Zone Finder. This is where you will type in the address. I'll type in the building I work in. And this actually shows you everything you need to see if you're in or out of a zone. You would look at the orange ones. We'll say it is, yeah. So it tells you this address is located inside a 2010 enterprise zone. This is all based off the census. So as you can imagine, it doesn't change very often. So if you see any mistakes on that, please do let us know. It'd be pretty bad that 7 years later we didn't have it. But you'll need this block group number. That'll be in the application. It's provided right here. The poverty rate number, they provide it. You'll need that. You get it in the application. It's really the best place to see. Also a great place to take a company if they're looking at their facility and let them know you're in a zone, you're out of a zone. This is why you are. This is why you're not. This is all right off of our website again here too. So back where on businessinTexas.com, where you went for Texas Enterprise Fund, you go down to tax incentives and the Enterprise Zone Program. This will have every single thing that you need. I talked about the sample nominating ordinance. The community can just come here, click on that, download that, just fill in the particulars of their project and pass that. You can also have, if there's a consultant involved, there's a participating consultant form. The application is on here. I'd like to go through that with you guys in a moment. Anything else you need, program overviews, brochures, what they're eligible for. This is how you get to the Texas Site Search right here. Or you can just bookmark it, which I do. So this is when you're talking to the company about what they could receive. Again, like I talked about at the beginning, capital investment on the left side is important in seeing what the maximum potential refund can be. And then on the second column here, maximum number of jobs allocated. This is how you tell. Like I said, most of them fall into this enterprise project one here in the middle. So $5 million or more of capital investment. That could be on anything that's used for the project. Again, they buy a new facility, they lease a new facility, they are expanding on a new facility, they have upgrades, they need to redo the entire inside, they have new machinery they're bringing in, office equipment that qualifies them. And then they have a maximum of 500 jobs, and you can receive up to a $1.25 million refund over the 5 years. If it's a extremely large project, you get a double jumbo. We do see these from time to time. These are very large projects, 150 million to 250 million. It'd be nice to be working with that type of money. Again, up to 500 jobs, 2.5 million. And then a triple jumbo, I've yet to do one, but they do exist in our program. $250 or more. This is an interesting one where they call it, you can have a maximum of 500 and a minimum of 500. This is specifically for 500 jobs. and you can get a refund of $3.75 million.
Not 501.
Nope, not 501,
499.
not 499. We've had some people fall at like 496. I'm like, this program is the most driven by statute.
Yeah.
Like the statute for the enterprise fund is maybe 3 paragraphs. The statute for the enterprise zone program is like 20 pages.
So hire 4 more janitors.
Yeah. So let's see if I can bring up the application and show you what this one looks like. There we go. Perfect. Look at that. Got the new logo on there. Okay. So again, this is all the rules that go into this program. It is a bit complicated. Again, project coordinators, myself, my other teammates, we can always walk you through how this works. We have quarterly rounds. The applications are accepted. So June 1 is one, September 1, December 1, and March 1. Again, we have 105 designations to use throughout the 2 years of the biennium. So you can always contact us and say, hey, does my community still have some designations available? Very few of them ever reach their maximum every biennium. The only ones that do are the huge metros. But again, it's a great place. You go to the application. This is on our website. Gives you definitions of all of these. If a company wants to know what are additional participating entities, what's business type, they're all on here.
You may have answered this. Is there a population parameter for a community receiving an enterprise zone designation?
No, everybody's eligible. The only difference is if you're a smaller community, you probably only have 6 designations available.
Okay.
If you're one of the large ones, you have 9 available. These instructions here tell you exactly how to assemble the application. We have program rules that are in TAC. It tells us it has to be a physical binder, and the binder has to be put together exactly like this. I guess in the early days, they just got tired of getting like piles thrown at them. So you get a 3-ring binder, you split it up into the tabs. This application tells you exactly what to put on tab 2, what to put on tab 3, what to do on tab 4. I highly advise that they do it exactly like this, because otherwise the application will get kicked back to you, and then you may have to wait until the next round. Another benefit of the program is that we are aware that it can take a little lengthy of a process, take 3 months to get a designation. So we give a 90-day look-back period on capital investment, and that's 90 business days, and that does not include weekends. It does not include holidays. So if a company purchased the facility and they started making investments, today, that 90-day look-back period goes back fairly far. It goes back a couple months. So even if you didn't get the designation in this round, you just reapply, you get it the next round, you probably didn't miss much capital investment to qualify you. And we list on our website what that 90-day window would be based off the round that you applied. We always update that. So this is just the instructions. Now you get into it. There is an application fee, $750 for an enterprise project. I forgot to mention for the enterprise fund, the competitive deal closer one that we talked about earlier, that's a $1,000 application fee. You can also now get half enterprise projects. So like I said, community might have 9 designations, but they don't want to use a full designation on somebody. They can come in for a half. So that was only half of their one of the 9. That can stretch how many projects they're able to get. This portion, public hearing, this again is about passing the ordinance and the resolutions. And so we just track all of that, make sure that everything was legitimate, official action, everything signed. It's actually on file with the community. Qualified business site. This is the actual physical location of the facility that they moved into. This is what we tie all the jobs to. So all the jobs should be working here. You can have some additional addresses included. The census map, most people just print off the Texas site search map that I showed you earlier. Again, that site is just unbelievably useful for this application. And then the rest of this is, again, the census tract and the block group that was provided to you on the Texas site search when you typed in the address. And again, where if it was in a zone or out of a zone, and you just mark it there. I can't emphasize enough, just because you're out of a zone, you're still eligible for it. I get a lot of communities that call me all the time and say, how can I get in an enterprise zone so I can qualify for this program? And I just tell them, you are eligible, just apply. But then community effort, what they're doing in the community, business activity, if they're already doing something there. Again, if this is for an existing business, they would just put in how long they've been there and what they've been doing. Business information and structure. This is again part of our due diligence. We just check, make sure that you're up to date on with the comptroller and all of your taxes. Include your articles of incorporation, certificate formation. Additional participating entities. This is usually for some of your larger companies. They may have a couple different buildings throughout the town, and they put like their finance department in one. I usually think of like Dell here in Austin. They have like 13 buildings. This is where you would include that information. So if you are in the process of helping a large company like that get a couple facilities, just let them know that you just have to put that down on the application so that we can track all of those. This is very important because the part of the program that's interesting is this is a shared program with the comptroller's office. So we in the governor's office handle the application and the designation, but once you get designated, all of the compliance will go through the comptroller's office. So we give them all these addresses, and when you submit for your refund, you will submit that to the comptroller, and the comptroller will check all these addresses and all of your purchases and your job numbers. And they're only doing that based off of whatever was put in here, and we were able to provide them. Most of this is stuff that is required in statute, existing jobs at other Texas locations, primary business rep. This would be who is the actual person at the business that will be able to talk about this designation. The local business will be the one that's actually specifically at that qualified business site. They have to be working there. That way, we're trying to cover our bases over a 5-year period. There should be someone we can get a hold of. Project description. This is where you could probably help out a lot. Again, the facility is this big. It's for this purpose. This is why they went there. Project characteristics. This is that 90-day window I was talking about. You tell them when the construction began, and you put all the dates in here, and it lets us know that, yes, you fell within the 90 days. Capital investment, split it up. Building construction, machinery and equipment, brief description here. Full-time jobs. This is where we talked about new jobs versus retained jobs. Again, a new job is a newly created position that wasn't there before. This happens a lot more with companies that are expanding or moving into the area. The majority of the enterprise zone program now is retained jobs. When I say majority, I would say about 90% of the program is for retained jobs. Companies that are already here and they need to build out or something like that, then they're able to get benefit for the employees that they have and state that they do plan to retain all those employees. Let's see, sources of funding. If you got TEF, you would put it in there. So a lot of the people that are eligible for, a lot of companies eligible for the enterprise fund will also be eligible for the enterprise zone. That's important to remember when you're talking about mitigating their costs. If you get a company for TEF, it'd be pretty unlikely they're not also an enterprise zone project. But I don't always I get a lot of TEF that never come in for the zone, and I'm always curious of it. And then in what we call competitive rounds, so like I said, if you apply during the June 1 round, technically speaking, if we get over 12 applications in a round, we then go off of a scoring system. This is the scoring system. The company and the community and any consultants will help fill this part out. It tells you how you get points for each of these. And then we rank them against. Technically, if we got around with 20 applications and we didn't have 20 designations, you would go highest score to lowest score. And this is why a lot of the extra tabs are important, because this is how you prove that you earn these points. And so the rest of it is that. This is where you would calculate the average wages. Just like the enterprise fund, you go to the Texas Workforce Commission website, you go to Tracer. Tracer will just show you, you put in the county, it'll give you all this information.
Here's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Would a real estate developer who has a dozen direct full-time employees but hundreds of subcontractors be eligible for something like this?
No, contractors and subcontractors are not eligible for the zone program.
So full-stop employees.
Yeah, unfortunately, those positions are typically not tied to a specific qualified
Right.
business site within a specific community. So it becomes very difficult for the comptroller to track those. And some of those have a lot of movement within that industry. And so they're not going to have retained jobs for 5 years to do that.
That makes sense.
And again, when we go back to the website, I'll show you where you can go to see a lot of the criteria that are needed in government code. So these are the rules of the program. Did that come up? Yep, there we go. This is super boring stuff that we deal with around the Capitol all the time. A lot of people don't want to read government code, but this is literally the hand guide to this program. I don't know if any of our other incentive programs that is so important for you to read this because it tells you all the definitions. What do we consider capital investment? Who is, eligible taxable proceeds? What is an enterprise project? And it goes on to the next page, gives you even more instruction. Oh,
I'm pointing to the time.
okay. How much time we have?
We should be
Wrap it up. Okay.
getting there.
Okay. So again, very important to read through this. It'll tell you if you think your project's eligible or not. After every session, we update these rules. If there are any laws that touch this program, we should be working on some new ones, hopefully for the next year coming in.
All right. I have another interesting question. It's for companies that are eligible and are building a new site to get help from the, maybe that's supposed to be community or state, to match them with a developer or builder. Is there a mechanism for that in your program?
Not in these programs. No, to match them with an actual builder for
Yeah.
that. No. But again, what we would do is we would probably send you back to the community, get you in touch with the chamber, and I think that they would be able to do that.
Okay.
Again, one of the greatest benefits that the Office of the Governor has is that we have all these connections and all these partnerships. And a lot of times the best thing we can do for you is make connections.
Right.
Which could be a lot easier for you than maybe trying to reach around the region. Just reach out to our project coordinators. We already have all these contacts. And when it comes from the governor's office, they tend to listen. And that's very helpful to you.
So an important step in strengthening people's ability to use this would be them developing their relationships through their municipalities with your office, making sure that your city government knows about all of these programs and who to contact.
That's correct.
To go through that way.
Yeah, we have endless amounts of contact with those cities or somewhere in a rural area. We may not necessarily get to hear a lot from your community. So if you can help foster those relationships, that helps us a lot. And again, the title of having the Office of the Governor attached to us always opens doors and helps out a lot.
So that sounds like a good thing for realtors to do, is talk to their local
Yep.
civic government.
Again,
make sure they're
yeah.
all on board with this stuff.
Yep. So you have your city, you have your county, you have local judges. Most places do have an economic development council, your chamber of commerce. Any of those would be great to reach out to. And they all usually know how to get a hold of us, and we're always reaching out to them.
Okay. Cool deal.
And
Hi.
that was.
No?
So again, here's my contact information below. If you have any questions about anything we talked about here today, please do call or email me. If you want this PowerPoint, if you want me to send you the Texas Site Search link, any of that stuff, please do email me. This is what I do. I sit at my computer, I work on these programs, I answer these questions, I take phone calls. We go out, we reach out to the communities. If you see that the governor's office is in your community, please do come to our events. We do have a very strong small business team right now that is trying to go throughout the state. That could be a great avenue for you to reach out and find out more about our programs. We do have an incentives overview packet. It's just a quick 4-pager that gives you quick information. That could be something great to give to companies when you're taking them through and looking at the facilities and they're talking about how they can afford it. That's another great thing to provide. Did anybody have any questions?
Let's get some final questions. I actually wanted to go back when you were talking about the development fund, the skills development fund.
Yes.
And it provides employee training. Is there, what kinds of training is that? Does it matter? I mean, is it tech training? Is it skilled labor? Are there parameters around that?
Yeah, there's no parameters to it. It's really based off of what the needs are of that company.
Okay.
And it's important to remember with that one, the funds will actually go to the community college, but it'll be based off of your employees. So you'll get $1,800 per your employee, and the company will have total control over how the training is and what they're training them. And after you use it for a year, I think you just have to take a little bit of time off. You can come back and do another program, and you can continuously use this program.
So that's great. That's a benefit for like a local community college and the business and the people who
Yep.
might get jobs.
Yeah.
That's a win-win-win.
That's a great
It's a
program.
great program.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions for Shane before we wrap things up? We will, you can see Shane's email address there. You can also get me at agamber@TexasRealtors, and I can direct you to the correct places. It says, Tip would like you to talk a little more about local city and county involvement. In like, can you be more specific, Tip? Someone says, can these slides be people allowed once they get these slides? Can they print them
Yeah.
and use them with clients?
Yes.
and their local, all the programs? So I guess Tip's asking, are all of these programs, not all of these are administrable through localities, just the enterprise zones one,
Yeah,
right?
the enterprise fund and the enterprise zone, yeah. They have to have some community backing to them.
Okay, all right. But the first ones you were talking about, the individual company ones, so when you get applications for these, the enterprise zone applications typically come from a community, but the incentive funds come from a company.
Correct.
Right. How often do you see people doing applications on behalf of, say, a realtor had a client who was looking for a place? Do you ever see anything like that? And is there a problem with that?
No, there's no problem. Anybody can fill out. It's really up to the company, whoever they feel comfortable filling it out. The majority of them come with consultants, but I have had people there in real estate and they maybe are just doing a little bit of both. If you live in a community that just knows the programs really well and you're in your position, you probably can just talk to them and they help you fill it out. Okay. Like I said, the enterprise fund one is a little simpler than the zone. You probably could figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to roll through our closing credits real quick, and then we will let everybody head out. Shane, thank you so much. This was great. I'm going to introduce you to one of our magazine editors, and maybe we can get some of this information in the magazine that goes to everybody in the association. So
great.
Keep an eye peeled, guys. Hopefully in the next couple of editions of the Realtor magazine, we can have some of this on paper for you. I would like to remind everybody that our next webinar is on September 19th, and we're doing something a little different this next webinar. We, in cooperation with our friends at CRE Tech, who presented this past July, are going to do a little mini tech expo. They have lined up a few real estate technology companies that are going to present their products for you, and what we're shooting for is hopefully give you guys an opportunity to try their new products at a reduced cost or maybe be beta testers. So keep your eyes peeled for that registration. I want to remind everybody also that the Texas Realtor Conference is taking place in Dallas, September 8th through 11th, and the commercial events are the first 2 days of conference. The bus tour is on September 9th, and the bus tour is a ticketed event, so you will need to buy a ticket for that. But all of the other commercial events are open to the public, so you need to go to TexasRealtorsConference.com and sign up for conference or purchase a ticket. We hope that we will see you there. I think checking. Someone is Enterprise Zones. Lewis, shoot me an email and I'll send you a copy of the slideshow, and then you can print them from there, I think is what we're shooting from. Okay, so that about wraps it up. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.